Hello, welcome to your snack sandwich. Today I'm going to take a quick look at DeSciWorld. DeSciWorld was put into my shill list. You can add your project to my shill list if you would like me to take a quick look at it and share it as a video on. Now this is a completely unique product, a unique idea, trying to use blockchain and decentralized communities in order to achieve a goal in science. I kind of like the idea. I'm not suggesting any kind of investment ideas here. Just going to explain to you kind of what it looks like. Now, of course, as always, I've read through the white paper, and I would suggest you to come and read if you have more interest in this, if you think this is something of interest and something that you might want to take part in various degrees. Okay. So there is a website and stuff like that. I'm not sure if it's quite live yet. I haven't tried to join or launch the app or anything like that. All I'm going to do is kind of use the white paper to kind of explain to you what this thing does. And then if you're interested in it, as I always say, go check it out yourself, do a little bit more due diligence, dig deeper and find out what is this thing. Okay, so basically there's a few ideas in here. The first main core idea is that they're going to decentralize the needs of scientific research. Okay, so here is kind of a workflow, and then after I do go through this workflow, I'm going to read to you an illustrative example that really kind of highlights how this goes. So the client, so some sort of scientist or corporation or something wants to perform some sort of scientific thing, right? So they have a task that they need to be completed, and or maybe they need to do a whole bunch of things like do a survey or perform some experiments in different locations or something like this. And instead of having to travel around, they're going to use this as instead. Okay, so the client has some sort of project to be done. Okay, some sort of scientific project to be done. He posts this scientific project on the website, on the DApp for the DeSciWorld, and then the community of those people come together based on their qualifications and so forth, and then they try to say, we have the people to achieve the project goals that you have, right? So they come up with some sort of budget, right, to say kind of like, oh, how much we're willing to pay to have this work done. The working groups, the community at DeSciWorld are filled with like all kinds of members of different degrees or different sorts of academic backgrounds or scientific skill sets, and they kind of look at the project needs, and they kind of build a team and say, yeah, we can do it, right? So then the project will then stake some sort of payment token. So like in this case, it says USDC, but perhaps it'll be other tokens in the future, like their native token or ETH or Tether or whatever happens to be that token, right? So they stake it and it kind of locks it into a smart contract, escrowed in a smart contract, right? And then the contributors go to work, that community of scientists or whatever they happen to be, those experts in their field, they do the work. And then after they do the work, they submit the work for review. The client gets that work and says, oh yeah, this is good or bad, right? So if he likes it, then he says, okay, it's fine. And then all of that USDC is divided up based on the work being done and stuff like that. It says here, the Treasury work group is in charge of distributing the funds to the contributors. I'll talk a little bit about the Treasury work group in a second, okay? And then the governance, if they say, oh, these guys didn't do what I needed doing, right? Or they did some of it, but they didn't do all of it, or it was achieved or partially achieved or something like that. So they will open a dispute, and then the governance work group will then be in charge of looking at this dispute and deciding, oh, is it a legitimate dispute? Did these guys actually complete what they were required to complete? Or maybe they partially completed it or something of that nature. So they will decide to maybe refund all the money, do a partial refund, or refund nothing back to the client and distribute the rest via the Treasury work group. Okay, so that pretty much explains to you kind of how the DAO is set up, how this system is used to kind of fund these needs of these scientific researchers. So let's go through and read this kind of quickly. I'll read it for you so you can listen, but if I'm too fast or too slow, you can kind of pause it or skip ahead and read it yourself. It says, a researcher needs to analyze the carbon content of soil in the coastlines around the world. Rather than make the journey themselves, they outsource the work to DeSciWorld's CSAA. That's the community of experts, right? Registered users from around the world can acquire the sample, send it to relevant local labs for processing, and then submit those results to the client. This request is evaluated prior to the community working group. A price is offered to both the client and the contributor. And when the terms are agreed, the funds are locked in escrow and the work begins. Okay. Now, these experts it's important to mention that, where is it? Let's go back to here. It's important to mention that these experts, these community people, they can either be anonymous or non-anonymous. So you can be doxed individuals who are willing to do the work, or you can be anonymous individuals who are willing to do the work. However, they do require you to like submit like a CV or a resume of your capabilities and your maybe your degree levels, your location, where are you at in the world, and some sort of like capabilities like, oh, I can go and survey soil samples, or I can go and measure the growth of trees. I'm an expert in biology or botany or something like this, right? So then they can put your skills to the proper projects that need those skills that you have, right? So now here are these working groups. Now this is set up as a DAO, okay? So there is a token, right? And that token, whether or not they need this token, I'm not exactly sure, but the token does have a few use cases, and the token kind of allows for the DAO to be set up with people who are kind of invested in the project and so forth. So now there is obviously revenue, so there are fees on these kinds of projects that are created and the payments. So those fees are then put into the treasury, and there's maybe perhaps the DAO can decide to share those fees with these people. So if you have this token, this DSI, you can lock it for VE DSI, and then you can then become a voter in the system, okay? Now there are these different divisions of kinds of working groups, people who can do different things inside this DAO to kind of achieve the different goals that are needed. So there is this product working group where it says like they design and they build and they test the products that make up the DeSci. So these are kind of like maybe the front end devs, the workers who are building like the ideas of how the flow of these ideas, how the scientists can, work together, maybe building some sort of like chat room for them, or, let's use Telegram or what have you, right? These are the product things. The governance are the people who are voting on things that become part of this system, right? So of course, these are the people who are in the DAOs, and there are operations as well as legal for the governance. So there should be a separation between, we need a tool that does this and then that does that, and we need to vote on it. And then there's also the legality aspects of like, oh, is that illegal? Is that a proper way to do this? There's the community, which kind of focuses on probably on-ramping and trying to encourage people to join the community who have skills that can use those skills to help out those projects that need. So like maybe hiring professionals and academic researchers and so forth. And then there are these treasury people who are going to run and budget the treasury and stuff like that. There is an important part in this white paper that talks about these treasury guys. Like all of these other people can be anonymous, but the treasury guys are fully doxed, fully 100% doxed, because they're the ones running the money, right? So the last thing I'm going to go is to this kind of spreadsheet or this other flow chart, and you can kind of see how like the community and the products that kind of work together. The treasury is kind of can fund budgets to build new products, new devices, or it can budget like maybe airdrops or incentives for like community members to come and join and take part, and then they can kind of take in part in these different projects and so forth. Now, they do talk a lot in the tokenomics. You can go in there, you can dig deeper and find out more about this token and so forth. But they do talk a lot about the fact that there's going to be no pre-sale, there's no VCs, there's none of this. It's going to be fully, they haven't raised any money for this token per se. However, they did sell a whole bunch of these NFTs. Let me go down to the NFTs. Oh, we'll see them up here. So this is kind of like these biological NFTs. They're based on like these scientific biological things, and they did mint. They're minting a whole bunch of them, and I'm not sure if you can still mint them now or not. But there was a whole bunch of these NFTs that were kind of minted, and they have an NFT launchpad. So like more people who have like scientific, artistic NFTs to mint, they can kind of use this. And I believe like these NFTs were not minted as part of DeSciWorld DAO. They're kind of segregated in their own entity, but that entity is funding this project. So I believe there's like a legal loophole here to kind of separate the NFT obligations from the DAO itself. And then they do talk about these NFT holders are part of what they call this pre-DAO. And the pre-DAO is kind of like before the token gets fully decentralized and dispersed through many wallets, many holders. They're going to run it as a kind of pre-DAO, and then these pre-DAO people can convert their pre-DAO positions into normal DAO positions when that DAO is fully functional and operation is in full effect. Okay, so that's pretty much the idea, the main idea of how this thing kind of works. There's a lot in here, so I do suggest if this has some sort of interest to you and you feel like it's pretty cool and you want to know more, then feel free to go and check it out and see if it's something that turns your boat and you feel it's interesting. The reason why I'm covering this is because I kind of like the idea that they're trying to bring decentralization and tokenomics and DeFi to other fields of the world, right? The academic research field, which is ripe with all kinds of problems, and I don't want to call it corruption, but maybe like definitely like in order to get a paper published, you need to definitely know somebody, you need to push, you need to achieve something quite great, and you need help along the ways. Whereas this kind of puts everyone on an equal footing. Like it doesn't really matter who you are, who you know, as long as you achieve the goals that need to be achieved. And that's kind of the ethos of decentralization and cryptocurrencies per se. And like that's kind of, I believe, the end goal or the hope or the vision of this project. Okay, so I hope this has been useful and interesting. And thank you so much for watching. And goodbye.